Hey, everybody, it's Dr. Susie Harris. We're here today for the podcast Next Seven. And just to remind you, the purpose of this podcast is to be helping people gain access to clean organic food, clean water, and also functional health care. So the intent behind that is if we could achieve that, I believe we'd be leaving behind a world for our next 7 generations that would allow them to thrive. So super important to me. And I think I always like to throw in there too, current time, our elders, clean food, clean water, and access to functional healthcare for our elders in the now as well. So I am super excited today. I have with me a great friend, Dr. Julieta Rushford Santiago. I'm going to talk about you for a second, okay? So Dr. Julieta earned her Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science from the University of Massachusetts in 1990. You got your doctorate of chiropractic from Life University in 1994. And 27 years ago, you and your husband, Dr. Matt Rushford, opened Rushford Family Chiropractic in Vermont. And you are a proud mom of your delightful, beautiful son, Storm. So how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Dr. Susie.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here. So, part of this podcast is bringing on functional medicine healers, practitioners, doctors. And I'm just so excited to have you here to talk about what you're doing. But before I get into the details of your work, I wanted to just get a little piece of your heart for people to see, so.
What do you want to see?
Yeah, so I'm curious, what inspired you? What do you remember when you first got inspired to start being the healer that you are?
Yes. So my twin sister was having headaches and we were in college. So I was already studying science and learning about the human body. So my mom takes her to a quack.
Uh-oh.
A chiropractor. I'm like, they're quacks. They don't know what they're doing. And I'm waiting in the waiting room and there's a chart. And on the chart, there's a drawing of the nervous system and how the nervous system goes to every organ of the body and what happens when that segmental bone is misplaced and affects that nerve that goes to the heart or the liver. And I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And in that moment, I decided to pursue the chiropractic route.
Right on.
That was like my first step. And then, of course, in chiropractic school, I did so much healing because you tackle your demons, you tackle your wounds in this collective space with other people as you're learning about the nervous system and healing. And it was transformative for sure. And then I kind of pivoted into not the physical piece of neural disruptions in the spine, but mental, emotional, spiritual results of tension in those areas because of the nervous system. Did you follow
So
that?
let me make sure I get this. So
Yes.
chiropractic typically is removing stress off the physical joints of the spine and the musculature, and that affects the nervous system in its way. But you're saying outside of the physical, the emotional components that also impede that system.
Emotional, spiritual, yes.
All right.
Do you know the first thing that they talk about when you're doing a mindfulness practice, like
a mindfulness practice?
Yoga, meditation, is spine straight.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Spine
That's
straight.
They sit up straight.
Yes. And what I have found in almost 3 decades in practice is that there are correlations between specific misalignments in the spine, whether it's the first vertebra, whether it's the second vertebra on the right or the left, is it the fifth vertebra in the neck? The different members of the spinal family have different tantrums.
Different tantrums?
Yes, and they show up in different states of consciousness.
Interesting.
different um, patterns of states of being. So that's why somebody can have an alignment and leave completely in tune with themselves,
Mm,
coming back here by
mm,
just laying down on a table and receiving some gentle reminders for that vertebra to make it back home and settle down a little bit.
hmm We're going to eat soon. You're having a tantrum. That's really awesome.
Well, you know
So
what's happening?
tell me.
That the vertebrae, they don't like to be changed.
Mm,
Just like people don't like to be changed, right? I don't like to be changed.
mm,
So the approach is not to change, fix things, is to invite healing. It's
I
not the
love that.
same. It's
That's
to
so great.
invite wholeness from the wisdom that's already inside.
Yeah, and that's if I have it right, it's sort of the subtle system that knows how to heal itself. So when you provide a space to invite it to balance, as opposed to forcing your will,
Mhm.
it's an interesting connection. That's awesome.
And that's what
Who?
I tell my clients, so I'm constantly jumping here like a cheerleader, like, oh my
Mm,
gosh, that was amazing. And when I do my post scan on the spine, I say, you did this. You're the hero. The client is a hero. The client is the doctor.
mm,
Because, we've worked on cadavers in chiropractic school.
mm-hmm.
There's no life force there. There's no healing there. So the
Right.
healing happens with that life force that we have. And that's the one that merits the bowing down to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what spiritual religions talk about how it's all within. The kingdom is inside, the way is inside. As a matter of fact, I brought this book. I wanted to show you. Have you seen this book?
What is it?
I'm not in association with this at all.
No.
Any-
Can
Anyways,
you
it's
read that
okay.
title for people who are listening audio only?
Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, and Lao Tzu, The Parallel Sayings by Richard Hooper.
Cool.
So he does a parallel across different religions and the themes. And one really, really big one, which is an inspiration for me,
Mm-hmm.
is that it's the divinity, the God is inside. So
Mm-hmm.
as we support people in connecting with that divinity within, in
That's
my
so
opinion,
awesome.
that's how I'm doing my part to change the world and to leave
Yes.
that.
Enhancing that connection to their own higher consciousness, spiritual connection for their body's ability to heal itself,
And
balance itself.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Connect with it and connect with the divine and connect with others, because I believe that it is that disconnect
Mm-hmm.
that creates the hurt, right? Like the war that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
In so many ways, it shows up. I have a relative who uh, was married to a narcissist, and uh, they have abducted the child. And I believe that that comes from fear, trauma. It doesn't come from connection. So creating global healing by one person at a time will radiate into the decisions and how people show up in the world.
I love that. Doesn't that make sense? And if the whole 100th monkey thing, you
Yes,
don't need the whole planet to do it, a percentage
we
and the
need
whole
to
thing.
hit. And Dr. Susie, I think we are really close.
I do too.
I think we're really close. I feel it. It's the 100th monkey, where as soon as we hit a certain number of people who have increased their vibration and their consciousness, it will just multiply.
Yes. Yes. Just a quick aside, I had a conversation with an organic farmer on our last podcast, Matthew Schwanier from Schwanier Family Farm. And he talked about 2 years, 3 years into removing barriers for the soil microbes to get more balanced and balance themselves. Once it hit a certain point, it just took off. So
I
isn't
love
it
that story.
what you just said? Same thing.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Here's a question I have for you. Who influenced you along the way? One or two people that stand out?
in my life, in my work,
Whichever one comes up.
I had to sit with this for a little bit.
Mm.
The first person that comes to mind is the teachings of Buddha.
Mm.
And it's not that I am a devotee, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't consider myself very learned in the art and religion, but you know, I dabbled in it, and
Sure.
I love the I just love there's a element of surrender. There's a holding of the suffering, which brings me back to what I said before, like the vertebrate don't like to be changed, and we don't like to be changed. So like when I've been through deep suffering, I don't want to be changed. I don't want you to try to lift me up. I don't want you to try to pivot it into something. I just want to be held,
Mm-hmm.
be acknowledged within the pain, because there is beauty and transcendence in those dark moments, in my opinion. And
Mm-hmm.
I say that from
Mm-hmm.
myself, and I say that from what I have witnessed with my clients, is that it, it can be a seed for growth, for evolution, that without it we wouldn't hit those places of growth, right? So I would say Buddha, of course my husband and my son definitely inspire me. You know, my son had quite a bit of a journey recently, with cancer actually, and funny, we should talk about this. Then I had my journey of cancer. So we were in the hospital, and I was stuck in the hospital with some severe complications for
Mm-hmm.
quite a while. And he said, Mama, just take this time to do things that you would have wanted to do. Just don't get too hung up on it. And I, like, my jaw dropped, and he was such a teacher for me
Mm.
in my journey, and he has been in my life. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, so let's get into some of your work that you do. I was looking around. I know that you do network spinal analysis, somato-respiratory integration. I'm just going to list these for a second. Chiro yoga therapy. You're a certified aromatherapist and now founder of the remote self-adjustment technique. So you
That's a
tell
fun
me,
one. That's a
yeah,
fun
what do you want to share with people so they can understand, as a holistic functional health and healer,
one.
health practitioner and healer? What
Mhm.
should people know about you?
What I want people to know is that they have the capacity for self-alignment. They have the capacity to tap into their inner holistic chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was when COVID hit, I closed the office. Um, we had an immunocompromised household member, and so my clients were needing me, right? Because there was a lot of stress. So what came to mind was an past experience with a patient who sometimes I get kind of informal with my clients. So I give them my text. So I have this friend, Nina, and she texted me over the week and she says, Julieta, I am flat on my back in tears. So I said, okay, so breathe here, put a block here, move your body this way, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you come on Monday, right? So Monday comes and she's not in the schedule. And I'm like, what happened? And she says, oh no, I heard a big pop and I didn't have to come in. I cleared it. And I'm like, well,
Yes.
so what I did was I'm like, well, if that has happened before, I can help people connect with themselves in a more formal, structured way. So for the last 2 years, I've been basically doing I call it a remote self-adjustment. So I'm able to determine through energetic ways with the pendulum what area of the spine is distorted, imbalanced. And through my knowledge of all these years of my hands-on, I guide people through verbal cues on, okay, so put a towel here, move your body this way, breathe here, and it clears. So
That's amazing.
I, I,
Makes
I
total sense to me.
think so too. Yeah. So my goal is to support people in maintaining, achieving, inviting a neural alignment. And why is this important? Because the nervous system is what controls everything in the body. And it's also the way that we can move in the world with more calm and peace and self-regulation. It's all the nervous system. And we're going through such big moments of such big stress and extended years of COVID and the mask and this, that people need strategies for self-soothing, especially through the nervous system, the central nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm passionate about helping people access some of this in a general way.
Mm-hmm. So when you talk about that, I'm following you because I have been exposed to network chiropractic.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to explain, anybody who's not really been around that style of helping the neural adjustment and that sort of thing? Do you want to speak to that?
Yes. So my training in network spinal analysis is part of the foundation of what I do in my holistic consulting business, but it's not the same because I don't have the chiropractic hat when I do my consulting work.
They're separate. I get it.
Mm-hmm. So the idea is to develop more awareness of specific parts of the spine. So this brings me back to the self-awareness that we talked about at the beginning, that when people develop more self-awareness, they can make better choices. So as we clear the static from the nervous system, we are better able to know what is on for our highest good. So for example, somebody may come in and they say, Dr. Julieta, what do you think I need to do? Do I need to eat this or that or whatever? And I try to bring it back to them. What is your body telling you? What is your body telling you? And it's hard because, especially now with such information coming at us all the time, it's hard to shut it down and go within. It takes more effort now, I think, than it used to in the past. So connecting with that inner knowing, and then you make the choices accordingly. It can be as simple as what clothes to wear. Like, for example, I'm Puerto Rican. I used to love wearing high heels, right? And then when I started tuning in, I'm like, wait a second, my low back is not really liking this. Another example may be you may be walking the supermarket and the oranges grab your attention, right? And you start kind of drooling a little bit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, well, my body may be telling me something. So I try to help people delegate back to that wisdom within. And sometimes that's hard. And that's when I send them to you.
To come from an additional angle.
Yeah.
We do collaborate well. I love working with you.
We do. You've done great work with my patients.
So let's talk about the effect of the aromatherapy. Is that something you're still doing?
Oh, yes. So just like I started with chiropractic, right? The first time somebody mentioned essential oils, I rolled my eyes inside my head, right? I didn't show it, but I did energetically. Like, oh my God.
The energetic eye roll.
Here we go. Another kooky new agey thing, right? So I tend to start everything with that attitude because whatever.
Yeah.
I have a skeptic mind.
It's good.
That skeptic mind, then when I talk about it, it's like, okay, I have dissected this and I have studied it from different angles, learned the anatomy and physiology. So what happened was, when you smell an essential oil, the reason it creates such a shift is because it's chemistry. You inhale the molecular constituents up the nasal cavity and it triggers the olfactory bulb, right? And then
what's the olfactory bulb?
Yes. So the olfactory center, the olfactory nerve.
Like the smell.
It's a smell. Yes. Thank you. And the sense of smell area correlates to memories and emotions. And that's why you may smell something and it brings you to a memory, right? So there's a connection there.
Totally.
So we're kind of taking advantage of that. And as you inhale the oil, you can help diffuse some of that charge around. and memory and emotion. They've changed my life completely.
Well, I feel better just thinking about it.
And then the second thing is, as you inhale it, again, just like oxygen coming into the lungs and carbon dioxide going out, the molecular constituents make it all the way deep into the alveoli, which are these little pockets of where the transfer happens from oxygen into the bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why you can only work with high quality essential oils. Please do not get one from Shaw's or even the health food store unless
Yeah,
it has
okay.
a vegetable. Okay, I started with a supermarket essential oil, so I'm telling you from experience. But then it gets carried in the bloodstream. Research shows that to 2 hours after smelling an oil, you take a blood sample and the molecular constituent is in the bloodstream.
What? So you're saying when I smell something in and it gets into my lung tissue, because there's so many blood vessels there to pick up oxygen, it's going to pick up the essential oil constituents and deliver it throughout the body?
Yes.
Wow.
And
I
then
never thought of that. I just kind of thought it
more.
was a delicious smell that made my mood change, but it's more than that.
There's even more. When you put it on your skin,
Hmm.
your skin absorbs it through the dermis into the capillary network, just like Bengay and Arnica. It's so interesting that people can get the concept of the patch and stuff, but then they can't get the concept of an essential oil making a change. You're absorbing it through the skin.
We are rather programmed that way.
Right. So the application and inhalation of the essential oil can have massive shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And this aromatherapy is a lot bigger in Europe because it's not stepped on by the pharmaceuticals and that whole world, right? So
interesting.
This doctor talks about the term chemical intelligence, which is how essential oils, they have a chemical intelligence that will integrate with who you are physically, mentally, spiritually, what's your history, and sometimes and be personalized to what you need. And I have seen that. That's why I can say this, because for example, somebody may say, oh, headaches, peppermint is good for headaches. And I'm like, not necessarily, right? That's the allopathic usage of essential oils for symptoms and for treatment of symptoms of disease. For somebody else, it may be lemongrass that helps them, So it's personalized.
And how do you discern which oil to suggest for a person? 3
ways. I either muscle test, I do the pendulum energy work, or total intuition.
Yep, gotcha. Perfect. Amazing. Now, I also noticed that you've done some workshops and that sort of thing on natural fertility awareness. Do you assist people's bodies to regulate out so fertility can be a thing?
That was more about learning your rhythm and your cycle as a woman, so that you can plan conception or prevent conception.
Awesome.
Yeah. And that, your body, again, this is coming back to your body, feeling, what does a breast feel like? What does the pelvis feels like? And those indicators tell you, I'm about to ovulate, or which means that you're more likely to get pregnant. Or it may also say, I'm done with ovulation, party on, there's no egg to fertilize.
Yes.
So you don't need to do other things to prevent conception because there's no egg there.
Yeah.
So it's, again, helping women especially just connect with this human suit that we were given.
Yes. Oh, it's so amazing, because I do have a number of women that come through my practice who really struggle with birth control. It doesn't make them feel well. Some women can't tell, but to have an option to tune in.
My husband and I did natural fertility awareness for 7 years. We did what we call conscious conception, which is, through the practice of abstinence during the periods of fertility, we were proclaiming how important this soul was to us in advance. We valued him so much that we sacrificed those moments of intimacy, knowing that we weren't ready.
That's really beautiful, the way you phrase that. Well, so here's a question for you. Can you share a story that helped you see the impact of your work? Like a story that comes to mind, either, I know you already told us the story of the self-adjustment over the
Mhm.
remote there. Is there any other story that stands out for you that moves your heart?
I have so many. I have, thankfully, right? I feel happy. When I was in the hospital and didn't know if I was going to make it out, I will share this.
Mhm.
There was a time where my pelvis had been radiated, but I developed heparin-induced thrombocytopenia, but my bones had been radiated so much that they were not creating platelets.
Mhm.
So it was scary. And then anyway, I faced my mortality, Susie, in that
I hear
moment. And
you.
I'm like, I may not make it out of here. And
Wow.
I remember feeling, thankfully, I felt like it was okay. I had made an impact. The impact that I felt was good for me uh,
Mhm.
in people's lives. So uh, I'll just throw one. I mean, some of my stories are intense.
Yeah,
I'll share this one. There's a
let's do it.
woman, she was in her early 60s. And I lay my hands on her spine and I feel a stress from when she was 3, which happens a lot. This is one of the things is the tissues around the spine hold on to stress, trauma, disconnects. And then the people just tuck it down and they don't have access to it because who wants to go there, right? So the mind blocks it, we keep going. And then 60 years later, you see this healer who says, what happened when you were 3?
Mm,
She turns around and she starts crying. And
mm.
she says, uh, my mom tried to suffocate me. My mom tried to kill me with a pillow.
Wow.
She remembers that moment and she remembers her grandmother walking by and basically saving her life. And this is something you don't share, right? You
Yeah.
don't, but the nervous system was still replaying a part of that trauma in protective mode. And she was able to connect with it. That's number one,
Mm,
connect with it. And then bring breath healing. And with some of the movement and alignment that we did here, she's able to make peace and transcend that
mm,
life experience in order to become more whole, right?
mm.
These moments of trauma, stress, distress can help fragment us. And this is what healing means, right? To become
Yeah.
whole again. So
Mm,
to a certain degree, we're able to put that story that is in a pocket and kind of integrate it back in here in a safe way.
yeah. That's amazing. I'm so glad you share that story because part of where I've been focusing lately is, when patients are doing great, they're eating well, they're not being perfect about stuff, but they're, moving their bodies, getting sleep, handling some of their, current emotional stress. But if they're still plateaued with some health issue, it's the energy field, the emotional body, those unbeknownst to yourself traumas that we haven't cleared that
Mhm.
are causing us to stay in a pattern. And it's not easy to go figure that out. Having people like yourself and other practitioners who have techniques to run into that and have a tool for helping a person work through to the other side of it. How empowering. Gosh, that's great. So healing.
Mhm.
Well, is there anything else that I definitely want to make sure we share with people how to connect with you, and we will have links in the notes below so people can connect with you if they want to learn more. Is there anything else you want to share with people or?
Well, I want to share briefly that what I'm sharing in the link is some scientifically proven body-based techniques that you can implement right away to help you come back to you. And it's, you'll see it, but it has to do posture, breathing, simple things that you can do immediately and
Wow.
and help you through your day, especially through these times. But yes, I want to share how amazing you are and
Oh,
you bring to my life.
oh,
As a freshly grad here, I remember sitting with you, sitting up for coffee and just connecting with you. You have been an inspiration for me too, because I appreciate your passion and dedication for personal and planetary healing. So I enjoy sharing this ride with you.
Oh, thank you, Julieta. We do have a beautiful friendship. I really appreciate who you are, and I'm so glad you're on the planet. It's good stuff. All right. Well, once again, to those of you that are listening or watching, thanks for joining me and hearing about Dr. Julieta Rushford Santiago. And the mission again of this podcast is really to keep shining light on the amazing potential if we can help people have access to healthy, clean, organic foods, clean water, and also functional healthcare, to look the many lenses that you can use to understand what might be in your body's way for healing itself. So thanks again for tuning in, and thanks again, Julieta, for being here.